So today we're going to go over Chapter 2, Section 8, Graphing Inequalities. Now, to graph inequalities, you would graph them starting the same way as you would with a line, and then that's where the shading comes in. So a linear inequality resembles a linear equation with an inequality symbol instead of an equal symbol. So for example, you would be used to seeing y is equal to negative 3x minus 2. The whole difference now, instead of an equal sign, we have an inequality. So the way you graph it is, you graph this, let's say it's a line. If you have greater than or equal to or less than or equal to, you would do a solid line. And if you have greater than or just less than, then you would do a dotted line. The reason is, remember, this means included and this is not included. Remember, that line is kind of like the boundary of the equation or the inequality. So like I was mentioned, you have greater than or less than as a dashed line, and then you have greater than or equal to, and then greater than or equal to will be a solid line. Again, this means included. Remember, every time we have a or equal to at the bottom, it's going to be closed circle, bracket, or a solid line. And then for the dash, it's not included. So that's going to be an open circle, a parentheses, and now a dashed line. So they want us to graph this boundary. So the first thing is to graph. Now for step 1, I am going to rearrange this into slope-intercept form. So I'm going to subtract the x, so I will get 4y is greater than negative x plus 2. Then I divide by 4 everything, and I get y is greater than negative 1 over 4x plus 2 over 4, which simplifies to y is equal to negative 1 over 4x. Sorry, not equal to. Greater than negative 1 over 4x plus a half. Now, I'm going to go ahead and graph it. You can either graph it this way, or you can start plugging in points. But the first thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to graph. Bear with me since I'm drawing this on my own. We're going to go ahead and start at the 1/2 point. We're going to go down 1 and then 4 to the right. Now, this is going to be a dashed line because we have the inequality of just y is greater than. Now, how do we figure out which way do we shade? They're telling us the y is greater than, so that means that the y is going to be bigger than the line. So when y increases is when we go up from that y-intercept point. That will be a great point to check. And then you just shade above from it. Now let's say they want us to graph this one. Again, I'm going to go ahead and start by writing it into slope-intercept form. So my slope-intercept form is y is greater than 1/2 x plus 2. So go ahead again, bear with me. So I'm drawing this by hand with you guys. I'm going to go ahead and add 2, go up 1 and 2 to the right. It's dashed. And then they're telling us, again, y is greater than, so that means we're going to shade when y becomes bigger. Again, do it from the y-intercept. That's probably your best bet. It's going to make it easier to figure out. So we shade in that direction, and that would be our answer. Again, we're going to start doing this one by putting them into slope-intercept form. We start at the bottom right there. Then we're going to go find the other point using rise over run. We're up 3 and 1 to the left. Now this is going to be a dashed line again. And then they're telling us it is y, and y again greater than. So greater than from that y point is up. So that means we're going to shade to the right of it. Again, do it based on the y-intercept. For the next one, we have y is less than or equal to 4. So I'm just going to go ahead and this is a horizontal line at y is equal to 4. Now they're telling us that it is less than or equal to. Because it's less than or equal to, it's a solid line. Then I'm going to go ahead and graph when y is less than. So from that point, y becomes smaller as we move down. So that will be the general direction that you want to shade. Now for part 2. They want us to graph this. So it's already at the in slope-intercept form. So we're going to start by the point right here. And the absolute value, guys, is going to look like a V. So solid line up like that. And then they're telling us is when y is greater than or equal to 4. So we're going to shade up. We're just going to shade in between those two lines. The way you would find the absolute values by plugging in points for now. Just trust me that it's going to look like this. We're going to plug in points for the next couple ones if we need to. Like this one, for example. We start the exact same way. We're going to start at the positive 3, which is our y-intercept. But we don't know what the other x's are going to be. So when x is 1, let's plug it in. So 2 times 1 plus 3. So 2 plus 3. We get when x is 1, y is 5. And when x is negative 1, I'm only going to choose the points right next to it. It's going to become 2 times 1 plus 3. So 2 plus 3, it's 5. So it's at the same point on the other side. Now they're telling us it's a solid line, so I'm going to go ahead and graph it. And they're telling us that is when y is less than, so down from that point. Now, when I shade that, I can shade down here. But keep in mind that this is still part of what's under the graph. So make sure you shade everything below that line in this case. Now we're going to go ahead and graph this first equation. So let's plug in some points. I'm going to plug in a point at negative 1. That's going to be 3, negative 1 plus 1. So that is 0. So it's going to be negative 1, 0. And the other point I'm going to plug in is 0. So we're going to get 3, 0 plus 1. So 3 times 1 is 3. So at 0, we're going to go at 3. And then the next point I'm going to plug in is going to be negative 2. So we're going to get 3, negative 2 plus 1. It's going to be negative 3 minus 1. It's negative 3 times 3. So it's going to be, again, this point right here. It's going to be, again, looking from there, the y-intercept goes up. So everything in between the V is what we're going to plug in. Now this equation, let's ignore it. It's actually on this next page. So now we're going to graph it. I will start by rearranging this into slope-intercept form. So it's going to look like this. I'm going to go ahead and start at the y-intercept. So right here at 6. The next thing I'm going to do is find my xy. So I'm going to plug in when we are at 1. So it's going to be 1 plus 6. We're going to get 7. So right up here, I'm going to try negative 1. So negative 1 plus 6, that's going to be 1 plus 6. So it's going to give us 7. So right here, they're telling us is a dotted line. So I'm going to go ahead and draw it like this. And they're telling us it is when y is less than. So from that y point, we're going to shade down. So everything below that line is going to be our inequality. Alright guys, make sure you turn in these notes. And then we're going to do some classwork tomorrow.